Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a very busy Thursday show. Lots going on. Injury updates, roster battle updates, as we are now just 1 week away from opening day. Yes, that's right. We have almost made it there. I cannot wait for the regular season. We still don't have an opening day starter. We'll potentially find that out here at some point soon. Brandon Woodruff pitching today for the Brewers in their Cactus League game, but we'll get into that. We'll get into starting rotation, the outfield, and the bullpen here as well. And that's where I want to start with the bullpen because you know how on yesterday's show I said, hey, we made it through the World Baseball Classic without any injuries, and that is the most important part. Well, I may have spoken too soon because as some of these guys have gotten back into camp, we heard that Rob Zastryzny is dealing with a rhomboid muscle injury, which is in your back here. But he's dealing with a rhomboid issue that came up during the World Baseball Classic they suffered for Team Canada. So Rob Zastryzny is going to be on the injured list to begin the season. Now he should be returning to game action mid-April, so it's not going to be a super long absence, just the first couple of weeks that he is going to be out. But still, he's someone who's out of minor league options that he was slated to be in that opening day rotation and opening day bullpen and be a regular piece. And trusted piece of that bullpen for the Brewers. So Rob Zastryzny is out. He is going to be on the IL for a little bit. Also, Craig Yoho is going to be on the IL. He's dealing with a soleus muscle issue. Very interesting muscle injuries that the Brewers have here. Soleus down in the calf for Craig Yoho. So he is also going to be out until about mid-April. So nothing super long, nothing long-term here, but still those are two candidates for your bullpen that are now going to be on the shelf to begin the season. So that certainly is a tough one. Also, during the game yesterday here, or the game on Wednesday, Kyle Harrison left his start early with a blister on his left index finger. Blisters, when pitching, can be very, very painful, can make it very difficult to grip the ball the way that you need to, apply pressure the way that you need to in order to throw your pitches effectively. So he's dealing with that. The good news is that Pat Murphy has said that this isn't really going to change his schedule anything more than a day, really. I mean, they're going to get it bandaged up, get it, whatever treatment that it needs to help the blister heal, and then he'll be back good to go. So it's not like it's going to be anything long-term. He's not going to have to be shut down for any sort of lengthy period of time. So they'll give him an extra day to help that blister recover, and then he should be good to go. Pitchers have been having blisters for years and years, so they know how to handle an issue like that and how to get it fixed without really missing much time at all. So a little bit of a scare there when Kyle Harrison leaves early with the training staff at this point in spring training. Very much a scare, but thankfully it is pretty... as far as news could go in that kind of front, it's as good a news as you could expect. It's as good a news as you could hope for when you see one of your projected starting pitchers leave the game with an injury a week before opening day. So Kyle Harrison, nothing too majorly concerning there, but we do have two pitchers who will be starting the year on the shelf. So just kind of want to dig into what this means for that bullpen picture, because we're all trying to project, these final spots for the opening day roster. The Brewers trying to figure out, because they have a ton of pitchers, how are they going to make this roster puzzle fit together? What pieces do they want to go with? So Rob Z, I figured was a lock for the rotation. He's out of minor league options. Was really effective for him last year, and so now he's out. And given that it was looking like a 5 lefty, 3 righty bullpen picture, you take Rob Z out. My first choice to replace him would have been Craig Yoho, right-handed arm to help kind of fill out that bullpen. Craig Yoho's out. Got to cross him off the list too. So kind of your immediate replacement for Rob Z is out as well. And I think this leads to very good news for Easton McGee, who I now project to get that final spot in the Brewers bullpen to start the season, because Easton McGee also pitched very well in limited time last season. He rode the shuttle back and forth multiple times. came close to running out of options throughout the season because you can only be sent down 5 times throughout this season. So he came close to that. But still, he was very effective when the Brewers called upon him. He did what they needed him to do, and I think Easton McGee now puts himself in a very great spot to make that bullpen, and that'll even it out at about 4 right-handed relievers, 4 left-handed relievers. So you get some balance there at least. I think you needed another righty in that group, and also you don't have many other options. It's between him and Sammy Peralta in big league camp in terms of true relievers, I guess. And Sammy Peralta's a lefty, so that doesn't really help his case much, given all the other lefties ahead of him, with Zerpa, Ashby, Hall, and Koenig also in that bullpen. Makes it very difficult unless another one of those guys ends up going down. But that's really it. I mean, then you're looking at your starters. You're looking at Shane Drowan. You're looking at Carlos Rodriguez, who's already been optioned down. You're looking at your Brandon Sproats, your other starting pitchers, putting them in the bullpen, in which case they would be long relievers when you already have some stretched out long relievers in Aaron Ashby and DL Hall in that group. So you don't really need 3 long relievers in your bullpen. So I think this is ultimately very good news for Easton McGee, who I think will make the opening day roster given these 2 injuries to the Brewers bullpen. When it comes to the pitching staff as a whole, another spot that's still up for grabs is that final rotation spot, because it is looking more and more like Brandon Woodruff is, he's not going to need the IL to start the season. Even if he misses opening day, he's not going to need the IL to start the season. So you're going to have Woodruff, you're going to have Miz, you're going to have Patrick. Again, this shouldn't be an issue for Kyle Harrison, the blister. So I still think Kyle Harrison ends up getting that 4th rotation spot. Who gets the 5th one? And I've kind of talked about it previously, thinking maybe Aaron Ashby could get it because they were getting him stretched out. Aaron Ashby pitched on Wednesday in relief, throwing 2 innings. Doesn't look like he's going to be in the mix for that rotation spot. He's going to be back in that long relief, opener, high leverage long reliever type role that Pat Murphy had for him last year. So if it's not going to be Aaron Ashby, who is that final spot going to come down to? I think it's going to come down to Brandon Sproat or Robert Gasser for this group. I think with Brandon Sproat, he had the few games of MLB experience last year. You get him in the Freddie Peralta trade. I think there's certainly a ton of value there. Robert Gasser, though, I feel like has been in the organization longer. So he's kind of where the Brewers want him to be, like pitch mix wise, things like that. He is already well into the Brewers system here. Brandon Sproat, a newcomer, this is their first time working with him. They probably want some tweaks that they've been working on here throughout spring training that they're trying to make permanent. So I think the edge could go to Robert Gasser here for the final starting rotation spot. And also just looking at the scheduled starters coming ahead here for the Brewers, because when you're in this last stretch of spring training, you want to start lining up your guys, right? You're going to line up your Brandon Woodruff, your Jacob Mizrowski, because that's what the Brewers have. Today it's Brandon Woodruff, tomorrow Jacob Mizrowski. They are going in order generally of what they would like to have for the regular season. And then you've got Robert Gasser scheduled to start. So I think with Robert Gasser still getting starts scheduled this late, I do think that bodes well for his chances. And looking at Brandon Sproat last pitched on the 14th. So that was Saturday that he last pitched in a Cactus League game, which means he should be scheduled to pitch here in Cactus League action either today or tomorrow. He should be in there, but he's not at least not amongst the scheduled starters. Once we get to the actual game, they put out the game notes. They'll put who's scheduled to follow the starter, and he could be among those guys. That's very possible. But if you're stretching him out to be a starter, wouldn't you want him to start the actual game? Because now you're getting to the point where these guys are going 4 or 5 innings. There's only so much room to have a second guy to kind of do a tag team there when it comes to pitching and getting these guys stretched out. So I think because we're getting this late start for Robert Gasser, because he's already in the organization, I think he's someone who might have a leg up for that last starting rotation spot. Pat Murphy hasn't really said either way. I still think, it could go either direction. I think there's a lot of value with Sproat as well. Very high upside type of guy. So is Gasser. But I think it'll come down to one of those two ultimately. That's the way things seem to be going now. And I'm leaning towards it being uh, um, Robert Gasser for that final spot. So we shall see, because again, we are just 1 week away. So we are going to find out soon enough. And lastly here, what I want to talk about is the final outfield spot as well. That seems to be a battle also, because frontrunner for or one of the contenders for the Brad Nelson Award this spring is Brandon Lockridge. Brandon Lockridge has been putting on a show all spring long. Dealt with a little bit of an injury that slowed him, but still, now he's back and he's playing full strength, and he's been looking really, really good at the plate. Overhauled his swing in the offseason, made some improvements, looking good. Then you have Garrett Mitchell, who missed most of last season. First he had, the one oblique injury, and then on his rehab assignment, tears out his shoulder again and has to have surgery. Rehabbing it. They've been slowly bringing him in here in spring training action, but Pat Murphy has also talked about how it's like, okay, now for these final few games, we're going to be seeing Mitchell in there quite a bit more, and we're going to see how he holds up if he's able to play back-to-backs, if he's able to play every single day, where you don't have to worry about him kind of needing the rest. Because, again, 2 major shoulder surgeries in the span of just a couple of years, I mean, that's a lot. That can take quite a toll on you. So for Mitchell, obviously durability has been a concern for Mitchell over the years. That may be an understatement. That durability has been a concern for Garrett Mitchell. But the talent is certainly there. So I think if he's healthy, and he's able to go, he's 100%, he can play every single day, he can play back-to-backs, you don't have to worry about it. I think Mitchell is going to get that spot. Because the upside, the talent is there, it's undeniable, and that's, I think, what the Brewers are going to want to go with. But if Mitchell isn't quite physically 100% ready to go where he can play every single day, where you don't have to worry about having any restrictions on him or slow playing him or anything like that, if there is any sort of a concern that they have to have a restriction on Garrett Mitchell, then I think they're going to end up going with Brandon Lockridge. That's what Pat Murphy hinted at when he talked to reporters on Wednesday, that if that ends up being the case, there's somewhere else we can go, and I think everyone knows who it is, and it's Brandon Lockridge, because he's just been so good all spring. Akil Baddoo's out with a quad strain, so he's out for that picture. Stuart Burrow we haven't seen all spring, so Lockridge would be absolutely the fit if Garrett Mitchell is not quite 100% ready to go for the season. So that's something that was a battle that I don't think necessarily anyone really expected coming into the spring. I think everyone liked Brandon Lockridge as a depth piece. Same thing with Akil Baddoo. And there always are those concerns with Garrett Mitchell, whether or not he's going to be able to play, if he's healthy. But, the durability here, whether he can make it through these final couple of games of spring training and play every day, play all the way through, not have any concerns, not have any restrictions, that's coming down to the wire. They're testing it out late here, just kind of giving them a chance to ramp up, build up here, that maybe some people weren't as, looking at it as a possibility. I know I certainly wasn't thinking, oh yeah, Mitchell wouldn't be ready to go by opening day. I figured he'd be ready to go by opening day, but, they've been taking it slow with him, which isn't necessarily the worst idea given his history. So that is going to be the final step that the Brewers have to take in this outfield battle. So be sure to watch closely these final spring training games, because these last spots that I'm talking about here, certainly the last rotation spot and the last outfield spot, those are going to be determined over these next couple of games here. The bullpen, just with the injuries, I think that narrows it down pretty considerably for what the Brewers' choices will be. But still, this outfield battle is really turning into one. Brandon Lockridge is forcing the Brewers into a potentially difficult decision. If Lockridge had stunk this spring, the Brewers might have just rolled with Garrett Mitchell anyways and just be like, okay, well, if he has to be restricted, we'll put Blake Perkins in there. And, Murph loves Perkins. He's a switch hitter, so you can play him every single day if you really needed to, even though Perkins is better as a right-handed batter. But still, you could deal with restrictions for Mitchell in that case. But when Brandon Lockridge is playing as good as he is, it's hard not to maybe want to roll with him, especially if Garrett Mitchell has to have some restrictions. So you can manage his innings a little bit more easily down in Nashville if you want to. So I think that very much is a possibility on the table, according to Pat Murphy right now. So that'll be something to watch over this final week. Outfield battle, last rotation spot, who's it going to be? We'll find out. I think it's going to be Gasser, but I could be wrong. Last week I thought it was Ashby. Things have changed. Things continue to change because it's spring training. We're not quite into the season. And even once we do get to opening day and this guy's in the opening day rotation, that doesn't mean that ain't going to change. The Brewers have a ton of starters. They have a ton of depth at that position. If one guy falters, they can go to someone else instantly. And they would be a very deserving candidate for that rotation job. So we'll see all these guys throughout the season, I'm sure. But who gets it initially, that's the battle that's up for grabs here. And the next opportunity after that, it may just depend on timing. You could be pitching on a Tuesday down there in AAA Nashville, and the Brewers have an injury, happen, and they need a starter on Thursday. It's like, well, you just pitched on Tuesday. You're not going to be able to start for us on Thursday, so we need to go with the other guy who's able to start on Thursday. That's happened to a number of guys throughout the season. The timing just never lines up. But if you can get that initial opportunity, you don't got to worry about that timing. You just got to worry about going out there and pitching at the big league level. So 1 week away from opening day. Cannot wait. It is going to be so much fun. And we still got a whole bunch more to do here. So be sure to follow and subscribe here to Brewers Daily. Get notified every single time a new episode drops, because we'll be talking about all the hot topics here regarding the Milwaukee Brewers heading into opening day. Lots of stuff to get into. Follow me on Twitter at dgasper24, and we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.